My fellow countrymen and friends of Southern Cameroons, welcome to another interesting segment. This video is going to be an eye-opener, so grab a cup of coffee, buckle your seatbelt, because in this session we will be looking at clarity, not confusion, law and legitimacy, and how we can make progress as a people. You've heard that they have scheduled another hearing for Ayuk Seseku Tabe, and this has been a big conversation in the community. We've also heard about the Kansas 3. We are going to dive deep into the legal aspect of those stories. It is very important that we clarify our community on what happens when you are arrested abroad because of any crime related to the conflict back home. Do me a favor, click the subscribe button, share this video with a friend or a relative. Trust me, this video is going to be a blessing to you. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
Out of jail, like I said, they need to get out of jail, and it is time for us to, as Ambazonians, as Southern Cameroonians, because we've made a lot of wrong noise and wrong analysis. Many of our people are not on the path of the Ambazonian project. And what we have so many times is, instead of trying to get all of us together as Southern Cameroonians to understand and choose our path forward, we on the Ambazonian project have acted in a way that we divide ourselves further and weaken ourselves further. So we must be honest to ourselves to know that all Southern Cameroonians are not on the Ambazonian project.
An elder of this magnitude should be appreciated, that at his age, he is able to change his mind. These are elders within the Ambazonian project, as he calls it. They are waking up to the reality. There is a distinction, a wide distinction between Ambazonia and Southern Cameroons. Ambazonia is a subset of Southern Cameroons. Southern Cameroonians want freedom, but not in the same way Ambazonia wants freedom. That should be underscored. Many Southern Cameroonians have been isolated in this project because of the lack of clarity about their own story, which is what I have brought light to. And they are coming together right now for that purpose. Now, as we continue listening to this video, when you wake up, my people, you have an event on a weekend. You pick up a cloth. You want to dress a certain way for that event. Even after dressing up, you are not comfortable about your perspective of how you look. What you do is you ask your wife or a friend, how do I look in this dress? The reason why you ask that question is because your survival, your prosperity, your flourishing in this world depends on your association, not isolation. So we are also going to discuss on how the world perceives Ambazonia versus how Ambazonians perceive themselves. Let's keep listening to this video, because my goal is to help us have a balanced perspective, because we'll look at other superpowers and the secessionist movements that they are dealing with, because that is the category that the world has placed Ambazonia in. And it shouldn't be that way, because our case is really good and the world really has to hear Southern Cameroons. The world needs to get involved in the situation Southern Cameroonians are going through. But if we don't frame our story well and have some structure, the world hears noise and not a valid claim. So let's keep listening to that video. Make sure you watch to the end.
There are others who have different views. And if we are the Democrats and people of freedom that we say we are or we project to be, we would have to take time and look for a place where all the voices of our people are, where we can come to a consensus of what is the path ahead of us. Not having people that we are going to, a few of us cannot be using guns to impose on our people. We cannot continue doing that. We cannot even sustain that.
No. I think
that this system,
a few people from Southern Cameroons under the label Ambazonia. I'm not saying we ought not to be fighting. I said this battle would have started on October 1st, 1961. We shouldn't be dealing with this today. So let's make sure we lay this problem to rest. A few with this kind of energy cannot hold everyone in Southern Cameroons hostage. And most of the people claiming to lead us don't understand the story. And some of them hope to go negotiate with Paul Biya, of which I've said is categorically wrong. And that is what they have been clamoring. Call the average young man on the ground and ask him the question, why are you fighting? They will not be able to explain the story of Southern Cameroons.
Biya system enjoys people who bring violence to them. They enjoy violence. They enjoy sucking the blood. They enjoy killing people. But they cannot stand a well-structured focus and determined non-violent resistance. That is why they picked up, when Chiroma was coming up, they made sure they pick up these two guys, Anissa Ikane and Jacob Chemini. Those are the two Francophone guys who have a history of mobilizing the grassroots.
challenges in Cameroon.
Francophone guys who have a history of mobilizing the grassroots.
I want to start by saying La République du Cameroun is watching my videos. You've heard that they've scheduled another hearing for Seseku Ayuk Tabe. I said it is illegal to detain someone from Southern Cameroons when La République du Cameroun and Southern Cameroons don't have a union treaty. It's like detaining citizens of another country. It is wrong by every standard. Do you understand? Now, not every arrest linked to Southern Cameroons or Ambazonia is the same. And the world does not treat them the same, because some people live abroad, and so because they feel like their people are in pain back home, that gives them the leeway to act reckless abroad. The world doesn't see it the same. For you, you see yourself as a liberator, a freedom fighter. But in another man's land, no, they treat it differently. That is a criminal offense. And they will not bow to the laws of Cameroon. That is something we should all know, even as we push towards our freedom. If we want credibility, if we want results, we must stop mixing fundamentally different cases into one emotional story. Law does not work on feelings. History does not move on slogans. This is a tendency in Africa. And liberation does not come from confusion. So today I want you to understand this 5 important premise of this conversation. First, the difference between people arrested abroad for guns, kidnappings, and ransom activities versus the case of Ayuk Seseku Tabe. Don't confuse the two, because you heard about the Kansas 3 and then you heard about Ayuk Seseku Tabe. You think they are the same thing. No, they are not in the same category. So secondly, we are going to talk about the legal and political differences between Ambazonia and Southern Cameroons. When you use them interchangeably, that indicates you don't really understand the story behind Ambazonia and you don't understand the story behind the name Southern Cameroons. So when you say that, I automatically understand, and this is how diplomats see you. You might go in there, submit a document, they receive it, you think they accepted it. Third, how the world sees Ambazonia versus how Ambazonia sees themselves. Fourth, how the big 5 UN powers handles secession inside their own countries and what that teaches us. Because according to some, we are the only ones in pain and the rest of the world is having a good time. Do you understand? Each and every one of the 5 superpowers have dealt or are currently dealing with secession movements. So not framing our case well automatically goes under that category, and they stay quiet. And you can do this for 100 years. Whereas we have a very good case. I say we have one of the best cases in the world. If handled with care, we'll have freedom. And the last, we will talk about why Africa keeps going in circles while its best talent flee to systems that rewards labor, not slogans. Some people can say, oh, we are one Africa. Nkwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, these were brave men. They stood up for a cause when it was necessary. The independence of Africa. But this idea of one Africa, Africa without borders, this is ludicrous. And those who think that we are all equal in this world, you see your 5 fingers, they are not equal. Say this on your platform. And I will back this with facts. The idea of one Africa, Africa without borders, is ludicrous. And I know what I'm talking about. Making Ghana great is making Africa great. Making Nigeria great is making Africa great. Making Southern Cameroons great is making Africa great. And you have to separate them. Let's start with guns, kidnappings, and ransom versus political leadership. These are distinct things. Let's be honest with ourselves, my people. The elders said we should be honest with ourselves. I encourage you to go on Chris Anu's platform and watch that video. This is an elder waking up, and I know many are waking up to this reality because they really want to see Southern Cameroons be free. But groups came up with zealous energy, with no leadership capability, and misguided many. And never forget, this cause started with the teachers and the lawyers going on the street. Around 2015, 2016, Barrister Harmony Bobga mentioned that we have no union treaty. There were individuals in the community at that time who rejected this idea of Ambazonia. The teachers and the lawyers are marching because of Anglophone marginalization. Why didn't we pick up this idea of no union treaty and build a case around that? Where did Ambazonia come from? This is what everyone in this community should ask these questions and answer these questions. Because at the end of the day, we want to build a country. We have to face our own history. Have you asked the question, where did Ambazonia come from? The teachers and the lawyers were on the street marching. Why did we have to declare independence under Ambazonia? We can't blame people. This has happened. But let's learn very fast from what has happened. Make adjustments now so that we can all make progress. But the Ambazonia idea was a big blunder. So I want us to be honest with ourselves, my people. When someone is arrested abroad for armed trafficking, kidnappings for ransom, or financing violence, the case is criminal. They don't care whether you have conflict back home, your people have been in pain. The world does not listen to pain, because that is what we believe, that if you have suffered, the world should listen to you. They are dealing with pain, suffering in their own countries. So they listen to order, structure, and a clear story that they can follow. If you put that name Ambazonia, you start explaining your story, it won't make sense. Because we understand the logic behind that name Ambazonia. In 1984, when the name changed from the United Republic of Cameroon to the Republic of Cameroon, Fongo Jindinka assumed that was secession from a union that doesn't exist. That is what the UN knows about our story. Incomplete decolonization, incomplete independence. Very good case. So that case is criminal. You should know that. Not political, not historical, not decolonizational. Criminal. It does not matter how just you believe the cause is. The moment civilians are kidnapped or money is raised through criminal methods, international law switches lanes instantly. Those cases fall under terrorism financing law. Some of our lawyers in the community don't know that. So they think they can fight these Western nations and the laws will change because they are in pain or their country is going through pain. It doesn't work like that. It falls under these laws. Organized crime status. Those are the categories they put your case. So you think they judge your case based on Ambazonia, they judge your case based on Southern Cameroons. No, they judge your case based on these categories. And transactional criminal law. No UN resolution protects that. We might try at some point when we put Southern Cameroons on the table and push for the complete decolonization of Southern Cameroons. We will try to help some come out of jail, but it is going to be hard for many. And some might go to prison very soon. No historical grievance overrides that. No sympathy argument defeats that. Now contrast that with the case of Seseku Ayuk Tabe. His case was not about kidnapping civilians. Ayuk Seseku Tabe's case was not about kidnapping civilians and the Naira 10. It was not about ransom. It was not about criminal syndicates. It was about political speech, declarations, and claims of statehood. So you may agree or disagree with his strategy, but legally, those are not the same categories. So you cannot judge the case of Ayuk Seseku Tabe with someone or compare his case with someone that was arrested abroad because of kidnap for ransom. Does that make sense? And when we collapse all arrests into one emotional basket, we weaken every legitimate political argument we have. So just doing that is ludicrous, because I've not heard anyone put this on the table and make these distinctions just to clarify the people so that everyone know their stance. We cannot mix them. I see people already doing that. Law distinguishes. The wall distinguishes. Only we refuse to. Only us. Now, Ambazonia is not the same thing as Southern Cameroons. Words matter in every liberation movement. Why? Because many groups around the world have this slogan, liberation movement. Many groups want to secede, but our case is not. Ambazonia is a secessionist movement as the world sees it, but Southern Cameroons is not. And when you mix the two, we put it under Ambazonia instantly. It's just like when a white man and a black woman gives birth to a child, immediately they categorize that child under black. Southern Cameroons is the majority. So if we have Ambazonia in the mix and you say Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia, we just say this is Ambazonia instantly. Southern Cameroons is a defined historical and legal entity. It existed as a UN trust territory. It went through a plebiscite process under international supervision. It has an incomplete decolonization question that remains unresolved. Ambazonia is a political movement. This is what the world sees. I know you see it differently. I know you claim that they think differently, but this is what the world thinks about Ambazonia. Ambazonia is a political movement. It is a name adopted later. It is not recognized in UN instruments. It does not appear in trusteeship records. It does not exist in the UN treaty series. That difference matter internationally. Southern Cameroons is a legal question. Ambazonia is perceived as a secessionist movement. I see people trying to claim that they are Mandela or cite Mandela's situation with theirs or compare the two. Please, before you compare a warrior or a leader that existed in the past, make sure you study their life and what they stood for. That is just my honest advice. You may emotionally prefer one name, but international law does not run on emotion. Some people say, oh, we could choose whatever name we want. No, with the status that we have based on our history, we cannot use any other name except Southern Cameroons until we have victory, have a nation, a country, then we can go on to make those changes. Ghana only made those changes after they got their independence. And that goes for every other nation that has made a similar change. Do you understand? The world doesn't operate like that. You don't just get up one morning and say, I feel this way. Oh, they accepted it. They accepted our documents. And so you can go on to use those names. No, the world doesn't run like that. That is why you see we study like this. That we don't wake up like this after 50 years. Thank God, 10 years has gone. We wake up now, make adjustments, and then make progress. Do you understand? So international law does not run on emotions. It runs on documents, timeline, and jurisdiction. This is not about betrayal. It is about precision. That is why I said if anyone puts the name Ambazonia and plays with this story, I will not take it lightly. I'm not attacking anyone here personally. I repeat that all the time for a purpose. I'm educating us. If you have to twist history to create an effect in people, and that means you are teaching our people the wrong grammar, wrong interpretation about their story. Some say, oh no, you would have called him in the back and talked with him. Someone is putting a message on a public platform. That message is going into the community. 5, 10, or 15 people might lose their lives because you were trying to trigger an emotion in them with the wrong history. Let our history be accurate. Our story is so good, it doesn't need twisting. People don't know. People don't know. Many in our community don't know. Settle with that. Some have elevated others in our community and had the assumption that they know. Some have called me here, asked them questions. They don't answer those questions. They don't know. Many don't know. That is why these teaching sessions are very important. So, Ambazonians often see themselves as freedom fighters, continuing an unfinished struggle. That is how Ambazonians see themselves. Remember, I told you, it started with the teachers and lawyers, because some people claim that, oh, we have been here since 2016. No, the teachers and lawyers. And the teachers and lawyers started in 2015. They had a series of meetings preparing for that march. It was not even the boys on the ground that went out to march. It was teachers and lawyers. And very soon we'll bring some of them on this platform so that you hear them. Let's build our community, our society, our country in a way that, my people, when the next generation comes to critique or build on what we have built, they should see little flaw but be inspired to do better. I'm not saying they should not criticize. I encourage them to see whatever we are doing today and make amends on it, because that is how they will build a better society. That is why the American Constitution has amendments. You trying to be perfect, you are not God. I'm bringing out the most accurate facts about our history. Whatever homily that I will make on this, let the next generation come and improve on something solid. Let them make amendments. What I'm seeing is a first world country. That's my program. The first world country in Africa in the next 20 years after we settle with this legal foundation. Do you understand? Before my project for the black race in Africa. Charity starts at home. Let me help do that for Southern Cameroons. Then I can inspire other Africans. I'm not building any other African country. They will be inspired and do the same in their own country. They have 2 hands and they have 2 legs. If I can't build Southern Cameroons, I should not be running around with the word Africa on my lips. That is a buzzword that takes you nowhere. So this is how Ambazonians see themselves. They see themselves as freedom fighters continuing an unfinished struggle. The world does not see Ambazonia that way. The world sees fragmentation, internal rivalries, armed groups without unified command, civilian abuses, online propaganda. This is what the world knows about Ambazonia. Fundraising scandals, competing leaders declaring authority from abroad. And let me help you understand. There are many other groups around the world with secessionist movement and ideologies in foreign countries, like Ambazonia. Some in India, some in the UK, some in Germany. We have this in every continent. So that perception does matter, given how good our case is. So international actors do not support movements that look unstable, violent, or incoherent. Like the senior citizen said, La République du Cameroon thrives on chaos. When they see a people that are organized, structured, and know where they are going, they freak out. Like I tell you, the messages I've been putting on this platform for the past 1 month, Yaoundé is panicking right now. We haven't even started. Do you understand? We haven't even started. Release every political prisoner that you've arrested. And some said, oh, it's Issa Chiruma Bakari that said, I'll dialogue with the prisoners. That is why they are bringing up Ayuk Seseku Tabe's case. No, the other guy, Ikane, didn't he die in their hands? Issa Chiruma Bakari is on exile. Don't dialogue with La République. Don't make that mistake. So, the world supports legal claims with discipline, clarity, and institutional maturity. This is why emotional loyalty is dangerous for this movement. Some people are emotionally loyal to some group they have been part of for the past 9 to 10 years. You will go down with those people. Remember, the 12 spies returned. 2 said we can go over and take the land. 10 said we saw giants. Everyone that listened to the 10, because majority, right, they listened to the 10, all of them perished in the wilderness. And some would think like, oh, we have been in this. No, God took people out of Egypt and let them perish in the wilderness. Jesus Christ came after we had Moses, Elijah. And today you go to church to worship Jesus Christ and not the old, the Moses, the Elijah. God structured this for a reason. I know some of us claim we are Christians. You're part of a religious group. Christianity means you understand what progress means. Something comes that is better. You drop the old for the new. I'll present this level of clarity and precision. You say, no, let me look for some old person that has been on this movement in the past, and that person knows better. And I know you are not a Christian yet. You are part of a religious group that practice Christianity. Because if you're a Christian, it's not about what you say, it's about you understanding what that means and being in tune with what God is doing. Now, when you look at the big 5 of the UN, that is the superpowers, and their own secession movements that they are dealing with. This is reality. Let's talk reality. They don't tell you this. They tell you we are the only ones suffering. Africa's case is different. The West is fine. They have no issue. No, they have. And what they say does matter in our case. So the United States has dealt with Confederate secession, only in America, native sovereignty claim, and modern independence movement. None were recognized without overwhelmingly legal and political conditions. The United Kingdom's dealt with Scotland and Northern Ireland through law referendums, and negotiated frameworks, not armed diaspora declarations. China deals with Taiwan as we speak. That is one of the big five. Tibet and Xinjiang. They are dealing with those issues as we speak. They have zero tolerance for armed cessation. That's China. Maximum emphasis on sovereignty. You have probably heard about the Russia-Ukraine war. That is something that is popular on social media. But you do not know that Russia is also dealing with a secessionist group called Chechnya. Russia's approach is force first, negotiation later. So most of these nations with authoritarian tendencies love chaos, like the senior citizen said. And he can be in that group, giving advice to the leaders in that group. They will discard his advice. Since he loves his people and is sympathetic towards what the young men on the ground are going through, our people, our community, what they are going through on a daily basis, he might be giving an advice in that group and he will be discarded. And you think everyone in that group doesn't know. I told you a couple of days ago, this is what we have to do. Silence the voices of the Obasabi people. You have it in every family, in every community group. They know little, they talk too much. France is dealing with Corsica as we speak right now. This group, they want political autonomy. But what did France do? France has given them some level of autonomy with strict legal limits. So here's the point. None of these powers, superpowers, tolerate chaotic armed movements. So in this case that we are building, we are taking into consideration all these factors. This will be one of its kind in the history of Southern Cameroons. I'm helping us to also have a global perspective of the war so that we don't just remain in our own corner and think everybody is unfair to us. But we are realistic about the war. So, none reward emotional narratives. If you've heard from Ayuk Seseku Tabe, Gojin Dinka even, Ayuk Seseku Tabe, Ayabache, they know little about the history. The next thing is, oh, oil was discovered. Oh, in 90 they changed the name because of oil. Oh, we have been marginalized. We go to the UN. We want to document violence. We want to document human abuse. All of that. That is good. But the world doesn't listen to that. That is why you see the depth of clarity that are brought. The smart ones in our community grab instantly what I'm saying here. Because it is one thing not to know, but if you're exposed to the truth, you understand it immediately. You know this thing is good. And it will help. So all insist on structure, legality, and control. So when people say the wall is unfair, they miss the truth. The wall is consistent. They have systems that has not failed them for hundreds of years. They won't jeopardize that because those in the Southern Cameroons are dying. We should understand this and be smart and be true about our case and not lose our lives like this or have our people in this condition and thinking that guns and insulting the West will automatically give us freedom. This is not wise. You're insulting nations that would have a say whether you have independence or not. This is not wise. A leader from Singapore said, their generation, this is someone that was mentored by Lee Kuan Yew himself. He's in his 60s. He said, their generation, those who are 60 and above, have to listen more to the millennials. Those who are 29 to 39 The leadership of the continent of Africa, you've seen it from Ibrahim Traore. The leadership of the continent of Africa, including Southern Cameroons, is in your hands. Rise up. I'm speaking on this platform. The elders will bring in wisdom and guide us. Walk with us.
So I think my generation's problem is that we've got so used to the idea that the only way you solve the problems in the world is by getting independent sovereign countries to talk to each other and resolve the problems. But the world has changed so much that our ideas about how to handle the world of tomorrow are still bound by it's bound by 17th century Westphalian concept. So the millennials have to persuade the leaders of all the countries that the things that make us interdependent in the world are far greater than the things that divide us. And you've got to find a way of throwing away all the textbooks you use in the Harvard Kennedy School and write new textbooks.
The Gen Zs are relying on us. They have energy. They can push, but they need direction. Our job is to lead and bring structure. The leaders bring in wisdom. Our elders bring in wisdom, and we push to the end. No one is useless. We all have a role to play. I repeat it again. The future of the continent of Africa is in your hands. Those who are 29 years of age to 39, go to the African generational milestone is under this video. Click it and read what your assignment for this generation is from 0 to 100 years of age. I created that tool for a reason. And as I listen to global leaders, they are saying the same thing that aligns with that tool that I created. So we have to fix Southern Cameroons fast. My mission is bigger than that in life. But we must build Southern Cameroons and make that place a first world nation. This is non-negotiable. We can do it. You have two hands, you have two legs, you have eyes, you can speak, you've gone to school. A lot of individuals with degrees. No, we will do it. And this idea of coming together, everybody come together before we do something. No, we don't need everybody coming together. If you don't want to come together, fine. Those who want to come together and build, start something. Some will be slow to understand this, but they will catch up very fast. And let's factor that in. We are not going to bully our people. We will not use guns on people to have them do the right thing. They will be inspired. That is the new form of leadership. And this thing doesn't have to end with enmity with La République du Cameroun. No matter what has happened. We understand the ignorance on the part of their leadership. We educate them in the process. It doesn't have to end in enmity. We will use their airport and their seaport for some time after the UN resolves this while we build ours. And I also heard a leader call me an elder in the community. He said he's a Bakwere man. He raised up some of these concerns about using the name Southern Cameroons. The Ambazonians dismissed it. And I just want to say this. We are not going to build a society where people have this kind of tribal affiliation. No matter where you come from, if you have a good idea that will serve the best interest of Southern Cameroonians, you should not be dismissed, minimized, or despised because of where you come from. That is absolutely wrong. Everyone has a role in this nation. Imagine you're a farmer, you wake up every day, put your family together and go take care of a grass. Care for that grass. After 2 months, you come around, take care of that grass because you know a corn is going to grow out of that grass. If you can take care of a little seed you put in the ground like that, why should you look at a human created in the image of God a certain way because of where they come from? I want you, because we say we are Christians, right? Let's leave it. When you say you're a married man or a married woman, we understand that you are based on how you live your life in the community. If you're running around every scared, we have questions with that. Like, what are you doing? You're a married man, right? Because the lifestyle should accommodate the position. So if you're a Christian, your lifestyle should accommodate what you believe. The question we should be all asking ourselves today is, if today, after knowing what you know, if you were in that valley where the Israelites were up against Goliath, and a little shepherd boy who is just 16, 17 comes to serve the brothers food and ask what is going on, they said, this giant and his people have been tormenting us. And he said, I'll bring down this giant, but I want to know the reward that comes with this job. If you were in that valley, will you act the same like the brothers who said, go away? Or will you be the king that said, put an armor on this brother and let him go and bring down the giant? We are still living in the thinking of the 1700s that if we see someone like me show up and say, I'll bring down this giant, and you say, oh no, somebody has been here for 10 years. No, the people were there for days. They could not bring down the giant. A young shepherd boy showed up and said, I'll bring down this giant. And he did. Just the legal clarity I have brought to us should tell you we are going somewhere. And you should be excited. If you are a Christian, you should understand these principles. Let's listen some more and then we are going to continue. I want you to understand that this is the bracket that they classify us in Africa. It's very important. So across Africa, these are movements that we are also put in the same bracket because of how we behave. Biafra is number one. We even saw our own leader, some of our leaders associating with Biafra. So we are looked at as a movement similar to Biafra, and we acted that way, associated with them that way. There is also Casamance, there is Western Sahara, there is Somaliland, and there is Azawad. So these are strong movements with emotional narratives in Africa. Weak institutional designs, the same thing. Internal divisions, diasporal driven rhetoric, the same idea. Little international traction. So let's understand this. We are not the only ones going through what we are going through. This helps you to remain calm and then approach your problem a different way. So the lesson is brutal but necessary. A good story without structure goes nowhere. So even after putting Southern Cameroons on the table, bringing this depth of structure and clarity without a shift in the community, the name Ambazonia dies down. We pick up Southern Cameroons, carry ourselves with pride, order, structure. We are going to struggle. Now, I want us to listen to a short clip and then we'll wrap this up. But it's very, very important for those who are confused about the whole Africa Unite thing. So I want you to listen to this video. A delegation was sent to Cameroon from the African Union to come look into our case. I told you, remember Ayuk, Seseku Tabe and the rest, they were arrested in Nigeria. So when you are pushing for one Africa, that is an African country. Issa Chiruma Bakari is in an African country and he can't speak. If Issa Chiruma Bakari was in Europe or America, he could lead this movement back home. So when you are talking about uniting Africa, come together, sit back and reflect on that well. Those people that you claim they are your own, can you run into them, seek refuge and free your own people? If the only place you can speak freely is in the West, then there is an issue with that idea of one Africa without borders. Think about it well. Let's take a listen. A delegation was sent. I pay attention to these details. Maybe most with these ideologies or movements that they've caged themselves in, they can't even think. Let's take a listen to this.
Challenges in Cameroon that have been going on now for some time, including the violent conflict within Cameroon, kind of civil war. So we've been trying to talk to President Biya.
Do you hear how Africans even explain our story? A civil war. They don't say it is a decolonization project, an incomplete decolonization project that the UN left. If these words were coming out of the mouth of African leaders, incomplete independence, the world would have heard us. Even the African Union doesn't understand. But through what I'm doing now, they will get to understand what is happening with us. Our case is different. Wordings. We just believe that if you stand for the cause, then you're right. Some people say, oh, we will put these countries together. We'll put America, we'll put France, we'll put this country together, and we'll have Paul Biya there. We will talk. I mean, this is a UN project. Incomplete decolonization. That is the real story of Southern Cameroons. And it has nothing to do with any emotional slogan. My people, please. So let's keep listening, but there is a lesson for you to learn in this video.
About this thing to say as the African Forum, that's a former heads of state of Africa, to talk to President Biya to say we are ready to assist you, to work with you to solve this conflict. And we haven't gone very far. Because he's not been very keen to be assisted to address these challenges. So I then talked to, as the Africa Forum were doing this thing, I talked to the Commission of the African Union to say to them, but colleagues, what are you doing about this conflict in Cameroon? So one of the commissioners then tells me that we discussed the matter as a commission and decided that one of us should visit Cameroon to engage the president and everybody to see that what can we do as a union. And she said to me that, and indeed our colleague went. And I was sitting here in Addis Ababa watching the news. And in the news, it showed my colleague arriving in Yaoundé and walked down a red carpet. And she says, you know, President, when I saw my colleague walking down that red carpet, I knew that the mission had failed.
That is your African brother for you. That is Africa for you. That is Africa for you. Pay attention to things like this. The person that wants to be one weight with no borders, can they help me in challenging times like this? If the answer is no, brother, step back. Emotions don't build a country.
So I say, no, this is a puzzling statement to make. He says, it's because the way they arranged that reception was to drive the notion into the head of my colleague that you are a very important person. So you are received with great grandeur. So in the end, it's the visit itself which becomes the objective, not its outcome. So I knew that my colleague would be so happy that he was received so well, and the red carpet and the champagne, this and that and the other. The mission would die. It's a crude reflection of the death of the Pan-Africanist objective. You can't sit there as a full-time functionary of the African Union and you go there to solve a very serious conflict among the Cameroonian people but you don't carry it out because all that you do, that happened, that satisfies you, is that I was given all the necessary protocol and the Jew and so on. So now I'm a big person.
He said that is the purpose why the Pan-African project failed. Some people are still hanging on the shoulders of one Africa. They see Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, building his country. They are claiming glory to that. I thought by now, because Burkina Faso is making waves, that will impact us in any way. What is that saying to you? You have to make your own place great, Southern Cameroons great. And as you make Southern Cameroons great, that is how you make Africa great. Have you seen Burkina Faso stretch their hands towards any African country to help? No. Because he is responsible to take care of his people, not you. So is every other continent. Let's not let the color of our skin, colonial baggage, slavery and slave trade control us. We study it, we understand what happened, but let's not allow any pain in the past define our future. So I study whatever I have put regarding Tika as well to understand our people. I understand the leadership style in Cameroon. I understand how different groups respond to leadership just through my studies. But I don't let the pain of the past control me. I have explained to people why they are acting a certain way today so that we can make progress. Now, this is what happened to Africa. They don't tell you this. You know, my people, what is interesting about this whole thing is most of the people leading the war, whether it's in Asia, Africa, Australia, or America, most of these leaders studied in America or in Britain. Pay attention now. Because they studied in these countries, it is hard for them to act in a way in their country without us who have studied in this country, including Americans, understanding their thinking pattern. So if I observe any leader in any part of the world, it's easy for me to understand why they are making certain decisions. What ideology is driving them? Do you understand? Like Kwame Nkrumah, he studied here in America. So he studied here, picked up some ideas that made him resent the West. That drive for African freedom was good at that time. But to go on and choose economic systems that are not sustainable and want one Africa, that the entire continent should become one country, he failed his own people. The Ghanaian people struggled because of that. Now, Africa followed a predictable cycle, and this has been going on, and that is what is happening with us right now. When we make this shift, you can't change the whole continent, but the shift we are making, the entire continent will wake up. They will learn from Southern Cameroons. Trust me. So, this is the pattern Africa followed. Anti-colonial struggle, write that down. Independence without preparation. They believe that if we just kick the white man out of Africa, we are going to have control over our resources. We will distribute everything among ourselves and we will become wealthy. So they did not take into consideration institutions, which is what build nations. That is why we run from Africa. We run away from Africa to Western nations, because slogans don't attract people. We can say we are all one Africa, we come together, but if there is no institution, the brilliant minds run away. Pull factor. Communism or socialism without productive systems, that is what they gravitated towards. They left the West, did not look at the capitalism and say, but I will not just copy everything about capitalism. I'll be pragmatic, because that is how I plan to approach this for Southern Cameroons. I'll be pragmatic. What works, we will institute. no propaganda, no manipulation. We will not manipulate our people. No corruption. Zero tolerance for corruption. I will share with you guys my plan, what I see for Southern Cameroons once we have our freedom. They picked up communism or socialism, one or the other. This is what they gravitated towards. So as they failed, what happened? Corruption filled the vacuum. Because when you're struggling now, incompetence, because the communism or socialism hasn't even worked. These are ideas that the nations that brought these ideas about struggle with those ideologies. It didn't work. I'm not saying capitalism is perfect. No. But be practical about what has worked globally. That is my view. What followed next? Authoritarianism. That is what they picked up next to control the chaos. That is why you see African countries, you see the Gen Zs rising up. The systems they adopted is not working for them. They will not accept this. Singapore got their independence in 1965. African countries started having their independence in the 1950s and 1960s. Singapore got their independence in 1965. Traveled around and saw what every other nation that got their independence was doing. He understood this will not work. He chose a different approach. He was pragmatic. He moved a third world nation into a first world nation. While those African countries are still struggling today and blaming the colonial masters, we have everything to succeed. And it has little to do with colonial masters. They didn't have any natural resource. They've moved to a first world country. So corruption filled in the vacuum, authoritarianism to control the chaos, economic collapse, brain drain. Now we have dictatorship. This has been the cycle. Most of them cling to power because they have nothing else to do. Their ideas are limited. If they leave power, they don't know what next to do with their lives. Do you understand? And you sit there and say, they know. You are the one enforcing that idea. Understand that they don't know. If you know and you don't do, you don't know. That is my principle. If you know and you don't do, you don't know. Full stop. Somebody say, I thought about... Come today and say you thought about Facebook. No, we are going with what Mark Zuckerberg has produced. Whether you had the idea and you did not execute the idea, we are going with YouTube. Show up today and say, oh, I thought about YouTube. So we should follow you now because you thought about YouTube. We should subscribe. What platform have you created? You see that kind of idea? It doesn't work in the real world. We are going with what works. The world gravitates towards what works. Has nothing to do whether you're black or white. And the cycle repeats itself. Talent from Africa do not flee Africa because they hate Africa. That is why we are in America, we still love Africa. We love Southern Cameroons. That is why we get involved in bringing about change over there. We flee because systems that reward effort are elsewhere. It's that simple. Every time you see young people at the embassy wanting to travel abroad, understand that slogans will not attract people. If we build Southern Cameroons poorly, pick up a socialist, because almost all your leaders within the Ambazonia group, their rhetoric, their thinking, their actions is all the same ideas like Kwame Nkrumah, socialism or communism. They wanted to sell all the oil and distribute the money. The same language. And I was very skeptical about that. It's not just about having this country. It can be worse. And we were going towards that. It's not all about gaining that independence. After we gain the independence, then what? What program do you have? That is even more important for me than this fight. Because when you have something big, to achieve, like making Southern Cameroons a first world nation, my people, even the fight becomes trivial. That is how I'm wired. That is how I see life. Talented Africans do not flee because they hate Africa. They flee because systems that reward effort are elsewhere. People do not migrate towards slogans. They migrate towards systems. No one builds a future on chance. The idea of one Africa without borders came from brave men. Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, Muammar Gaddafi. They were courageous, visionaries of their time, and deeply wrong for our time. Africa without borders sound noble, but no system sustains it. No institutions enforce it. No economic framework supports it. 7 continents on planet Earth, and none of these continents are trying to be one country except us. Something is wrong. That is how I see the world. And if you have the courage, criticize this on your platform. I can write 10 books to debunk this idea of how crazy it sounds. Trade cooperation, yes. Regional association, yes. Open markets, yes. Networking, yes. But no borders, no accountability, no state capability is a fantasy. That is how I see it. I'll just leave it like that. So I do not worship history. That's one thing I want you to know about me. I don't worship the past. That does not serve the reality we live in today. Let me repeat that slowly so you understand. That's my mindset. And this is the kind of mindset we need in the continent of Africa. I do not worship history. That does not serve the reality we live in today. Anything that happened in the past that can help the current reality we are living in, I welcome that. Anything that will not free our people, provide water, roads, jobs for our people, I will not worship that. We will not build Southern Cameroons on everyone's opinion coming together like it's a Njangi group. We will build Southern Cameroons on knowledgeable people that understand what they are saying, coming together to build systems that work, systems that are proven to work, and we will associate with the best in the world. Learn, do, teach. That is the model. It's simple. You learn, so we bring in the best, we learn from them, we do, and then we teach the others. That is the basic model. By the time we set this foundation, many will be running from abroad back home because it will be so good. And we will help solve global challenges. Some of these supply chain challenges, we will help solve that. So, we respect the past. That is what they saw. They can only do what they saw. And we respect them for what they did. But you are the living. What can you do in your time? So do not sacrifice the future to outdated ideas. So I'll end with this. Clarity is not betrayal. Precision is not division. Discipline is not weakness. The world does not reward anger. It rewards order. If we want justice, we must speak the language of law. If we want recognition, we must behave like a state, not a crowd. If we want our people to return, we must build systems that reward work, talent, and discipline. History is not sentimental, neither is the war. And that is the truth we must face if we are serious about winning. I love you guys so much, my people. I believe in us so much than you can ever imagine. We are not building a nation that I myself don't feel like I deserve. If I feel that I deserve something good, I know what I desire will be what I wish for someone else. That is how Apple computer was built. Steve Jobs asked the question, what you are building, can you use it yourself? If you can use it yourself, then people that care about what you care about will love it. That is how I see us. I believe we deserve the best.